After the devastation of a painful divorce, Rosa believed her life had been irreparably broken, until a millionaire, with nothing but sincerity in his eyes, looked at her and whispered, "Will you marry me?" Hello, beautiful souls. A warm, heartfelt welcome to each and every one of you tuning in today. I'm your storyteller, James, and I hope you're feeling loved, surrounded by peace, and that your day is filled with light. Before we dive into today's emotional journey, allow me to speak a blessing over your heart. May your life overflow with hope. May love surround your every moment, and may God open the doors that lead you to your destiny. If you're carrying a heavy burden, remember you're never alone, and brighter days are ahead. In Jesus' name, amen. Now to my loyal family, where are you watching from today? Drop a comment below. I love seeing how far this circle of love extends. And listen, I need to speak from the heart for just a moment. If these stories have touched you even once, please consider sharing this video with at least 3 friends you care about. Some other channels have been stealing my content recently, and it's really affected my reach here on YouTube. Your support is more crucial now than ever. A single share, comment, or subscribe means the world to me. So if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and be part of this family that's growing stronger every day. All right, now that we're all connected and our hearts are open, let's dive into today's story, a tale of love, heartbreak, and the unexpected twists life throws our way. Let's begin. Rosa had always imagined her birthday as a day filled with joy, laughter, and the warmth of celebration. She dreamed of soft surprises, the scent of cake in the air, and love freely flowing. But this year, it felt as if the universe had scripted something far more cruel just for her. The day began with a flicker of hope, despite the distance she had sensed between her and her husband for months. She had still chosen to wear the soft lavender dress he once said made her skin glow like sunlight on caramel. She placed a small bouquet of flowers on the table, hoping he'd notice, hoping for a simple, "Happy birthday, Rosa." But instead she was met with an eerie silence, the kind that had become all too familiar as the hours dragged on with nothing but the sound of the ticking clock. When he finally entered the room, his face bore no smile, no sign of regret, only cold, indifferent eyes. In his hand was a manila envelope, which he dropped onto the table with a thud that echoed louder than any words ever could. Rosa stared at the envelope, her fingers trembling as she reached for it. It felt as though it might burst into flames, as if the very thing she was holding was capable of destroying everything she'd clung to. She opened it slowly, her eyes scanning the top page. The words "petition for divorce" stood boldly before her, and in that moment, the world seemed to fracture into 1,000 irreparable pieces. Her breath caught in her throat, her heart sinking. This couldn't be happening. Not today, not on her birthday. "Why today?" she managed to whisper, her voice barely audible, but he said nothing. He didn't offer an explanation or defend his timing. He simply walked away, leaving her alone with the crushing weight of the papers on the table, as though their years together meant nothing. Rosa sat there, hands falling to her lap, her whole body shaking with a sorrow so deep that, at first, she couldn't cry. The tears just wouldn't come. Not yet. She couldn't bear the weight of it all. Her brown skin glowed softly in the golden light from the window, but she didn't see her reflection. Her stunning beauty, once defined by joy and dreams, now seemed foreign to her. Her long curls framed her face like strands of silk, beautiful but hollow, lifeless. The reality of her situation hit her like a crushing wave. Her love, her sacrifices, her faithfulness, all meaningless now to the man who had just discarded her. She tried to collect herself, but the grief felt too heavy, too unbearable. Slowly she stood from the edge of the bed, her legs weak, her satin dress whispering against the floor as she moved, like a ghost of the woman she was only hours ago. Her hands trailed over the framed photographs on the dresser, memories of happier times. She picked up one, a photo of them on their anniversary, his arm around her waist, her head resting against his chest. And with a cry that tore through her, she hurled it to the ground. The glass shattered across the floor, but she didn't flinch. She didn't care. Pain had numbed her to the point where even broken glass meant nothing. She turned away, the tears flowing freely now, soaking her cheeks, her lips trembling. She grabbed her coat, pulling it on, not knowing where she was going, not caring. She just needed to escape the house that was now full of memories she couldn't bear. Outside, the sky mirrored her sadness, gray, heavy, unforgiving. The rain began to fall, at first a gentle drizzle, then harder, as if the heavens themselves mourned her broken heart. She walked without direction, letting the rain soak through her hair, her dress, and her skin, as if the chill and sting might cleanse the pain within her. Her curls clung to her face and neck, mixing with her tears until she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. People passed her by, some with pity in their eyes, others indifferent, but no one stopped, no one noticed her pain. "Why wasn't I enough?" she whispered to herself, the rawness in her voice cutting through the rain. She kept walking until she found a park bench beneath a weeping willow, its branches swaying in the storm, like her heart in the wind. She sat down, drenched, exhausted and numb, her coat offering no warmth. She hugged herself, rocking slightly, her teeth chattering, not from the cold, but from the emptiness inside. "Happy birthday to me," she muttered bitterly, a hollow laugh escaping her lips before it turned into a sob. She didn't know how long she sat there. Minutes, hours maybe. Her head bowed, her world a blur of rain-soaked city lights. No one called. No one came. She was truly alone. The birthday she had once imagined had become a symbol of everything she had lost. Her marriage, her dignity, her hope. She whispered to herself, "I don't know how to begin again." And yet, as the storm raged around her, something unseen began to shift. From a quiet corner of the street, someone noticed her, someone whose gaze softened the moment it landed on her trembling form. But for now, Rosa only knew the rain, the pain, and the brokenness of a birthday that had shattered her. "You're just beginning." Rosa's breath caught in her throat as his words reverberated in her chest. She had thought she knew heartbreak, had lived it for so long that she'd started to believe it was all she was ever going to be. But now, sitting in this elegant room with Jack's steady presence beside her, his words seemed to wrap around her like a lifeline she hadn't realized she was waiting for. She swallowed hard, not knowing what to say, but feeling the weight of her own silence pressing in. She had never allowed herself the luxury of hope. Life had taught her to prepare for disappointment, to expect the worst, and to keep moving forward with whatever little she had left. But Jack, this stranger who seemed to see her in a way that no one ever had, was offering her something she wasn't sure she was capable of accepting. He was offering her a second chance. Her heart thudded in her chest and she took another sip of the coffee, its warmth spreading through her. It was comforting in a way that the world outside hadn't been in a long time. "I don't know how to start over," Rosa said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. She didn't meet his gaze, afraid that if she did, she would betray the depth of her uncertainty, the fear that clung to her like a second skin. "I don't even know who I am anymore." Jack's gaze softened, and he leaned forward slightly, his expression filled with quiet understanding. "You don't have to have all the answers, Rosa. Sometimes just taking the next step is enough. You're not alone in this. Not with me." For the first time since she had walked into his world, Rosa felt something stir inside her, a fragile, hesitant trust. It was like stepping into a new life, not knowing where the path would lead, but believing in the possibility of something better. "Thank you," she said, her voice a little stronger this time. "For everything." Jack nodded, the faintest of smiles pulling at the corner of his lips. "It's nothing, but you're welcome, Rosa. I mean it." They sat in silence for a while longer, the stillness between them no longer uncomfortable but peaceful, as if the world outside had softened just enough to allow them this moment of quiet understanding. In that moment, Rosa realized something. She didn't need to have everything figured out. She didn't need to rush into the future or force herself to heal at a pace she wasn't ready for. What she needed now was to simply exist in this space, to breathe, to feel safe, to allow herself the grace of taking one step at a time. The room around her, with its soft golden light and gentle warmth, became a metaphor for the world she might one day inhabit. A world where hope and healing were possible, where her heart could slowly begin to piece itself together again. Jack's quiet presence beside her was a promise, not of certainty, but of possibility. And as the soft morning light began to brighten the room, Rosa allowed herself to believe that this new beginning, was more than just an escape. It was a chance for her to find herself again. That made everything feel possible. As they swayed together, Rosa realized how far she had come from the woman she used to be. The one who carried the weight of past hurts and doubts, afraid to trust or open her heart. Now with Jack, the world seemed brighter, more hopeful, and filled with love. In that quiet moment, surrounded by the warmth of their home and the hum of their simple joy, Rosa felt an overwhelming sense of peace. She didn't need anything grand or perfect. She had everything she needed right there in Jack's arms. His love, his presence, his unwavering support. "I never imagined life could be like this," she whispered, her voice full of emotion. Jack smiled softly, his fingers brushing through her hair. "Neither did I," he murmured, his voice tender. "But we're making it together, one step at a time." Rosa nodded, her heart full. She was no longer running from her past. With Jack, she was learning to embrace the future, and for the first time, she could see the possibility of a life filled with love, joy, and healing. As they continued to dance in the kitchen, Rosa knew that whatever came their way, they would face it together. No longer was she the broken woman she had once been. She was stronger now, more complete, and it was all because Jack had shown her the power of love and patience. In that dance, Rosa found the final piece she had been searching for. The belief that she deserved happiness, that she could be loved fully, and that her heart was not beyond repair. Jack had helped her rediscover who she was, and with him by her side, she knew that her story was far from over. It was just beginning. Filled with defiance, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion, "And I will love you for every moment that follows." Rosa's heart swelled at his words, at the depth of love that had blossomed between them, stronger than any obstacle they had ever faced. She rested her head against his chest, closing her eyes and feeling the steady beat of his heart, the rhythm that had become her sanctuary. They danced in their own quiet world, where the past no longer had a hold on them, and the future gleamed with promise. For the first time, Rosa felt completely, utterly at peace. She had loved, she had lost, and now she was finding her way back to herself, back to the woman who could be loved fiercely, deeply, and without question. And as Jack held her close, she knew that their journey was far from over. With every soft step of their dance, they were writing the next chapter of their love story. A love that had survived the trials of their individual lives and was now blossoming into something even more beautiful than they had imagined. And as they danced into the night, surrounded by candlelight and soft melodies, Rosa felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. She had found love, yes, but more importantly, she had found herself again. And in that truth, she knew her story with Jack would never end. It would only continue to unfold, layer by layer, as they both grew together. "Forever, Jack," she whispered softly, her voice barely more than a breath. "Forever." And as he held her tighter, kissing her forehead with the kind of tenderness that had become second nature between them, Jack whispered in return, "Forever, Rosa. Always." Love had become something they could savor, stretching each moment into eternity. Jack, in his quiet strength, had transformed their lives, turning every ordinary task into a gesture of tenderness and care. Rosa, once broken and lost, now held herself with a kind of grace that came from knowing she was truly seen, cherished, and adored. Together they had created a world where every detail mattered, from the soft scent of roses that filled their home to the precious moments spent simply being present with one another. The arrival of their daughter had shifted something fundamental in their hearts. They had built a love that was not just about passion, but about sacrifice, devotion, and the quiet joy of shared dreams. Rosa watched Jack as he moved around their home with a kind of reverence for every little thing, whether it was the sound of their baby's first laugh or the way he'd make sure she always had a blanket on her shoulders when the evenings grew cool. They had made it through the darkness together, and now, in the quiet sanctuary of their home, They basked in the light they had created, a family bound not just by love, but by a shared journey of transformation, growth, and unwavering commitment. Every day, Jack's devotion only grew, and every day Rosa saw not just the man she loved, but the father who would always protect their child. As they sat together, with their daughter asleep in her arms, Rosa whispered, her voice full of gratitude and wonder, "We've built something beautiful, haven't we?" Jack's smile was all-encompassing, and he kissed her forehead. "Yes, my queen, we have." Life had transformed into a constant prayer, each hour a soft, whispered blessing, and every moment a verse written in love's quiet, tender handwriting. By mid-morning, Jack returned with a tray laden with fresh fruit, warm pastries, and a single white lily nestled in a crystal glass. Rosa beamed at the sight, her wild curls a testament to sleep, and her silk robe slipping slightly off one shoulder. Jack leaned down, kissing that exposed shoulder before placing the tray on her lap. "Your morning bloom," he said, a reference to both the flower and her. Rosa laughed, a soft, bell-like sound that always made Jack's chest ache with joy. Their daughter, now a few months old, had become a bundle of discovery and joy. They took turns bathing her, dressing her in tiny dresses that Rosa had carefully chosen, and reading aloud from picture books filled with soft pages and bright illustrations. Rosa's voice, low and lyrical, filled the nursery like a lullaby, while Jack watched in awe, always amazed by the quiet magic she wove around their child. Evenings became a cherished ritual. After putting their daughter to sleep, Rosa and Jack retreated to the garden, wrapped in shawls beneath the starlit sky. There they spoke about everything and nothing, hands linked, wine glasses forgotten in favor of soft kisses and tangled legs. Some nights Jack brought his guitar, serenading them with lullabies he'd written for their little one. Other nights they danced barefoot on the grass, as if the world had melted away, leaving only the music of their souls brushing against each other. One day Rosa stood before a large mirror, adjusting the navy blue ribbon on her dress, preparing for the opening of something deeply personal. Jack approached her from behind, wrapping his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Nervous?" he whispered. Rosa nodded, just a little. "A little. But it's time, Jack. Time to give back the healing that was given to me." He didn't respond with words but kissed her neck and helped her put on her earrings, knowing that this moment was about her strength, her journey, her fire. That afternoon, Rosa cut the ribbon for the Haven, a women's center built with warmth, elegance, and safety woven into its very walls. It offered counseling, legal help, and creative workshops, all surrounded by gardens and rooms bathed in soft colors and gentle light. As she gave her speech, Rosa spoke not as a victim, but as a survivor who now thrived. "There was a time I thought love had forgotten me, but love found me again and gave me purpose." Jack stood at the back, their daughter in his arms, his eyes glassy with emotion. He had always known Rosa was meant for more than just being his wife. She was born to lead, to uplift, to heal. That night after they had put the baby to bed, Jack knelt on the bedroom floor while Rosa changed into her nightgown. He looked up at her as if seeing her for the first time. "Will you marry me again, Rosa?" he asked softly. "Not just because I love you, but because every day you give this world something it doesn't deserve. Your grace." Rosa turned slowly, her eyes widening with surprise, tears already beginning to well up. She had lost count of how many times Jack had asked her the same question, but the magic never faded. "Yes," she said, walking into his arms. "Yes, 1,000 times." They fell into bed laughing, their laughter melting into soft kisses, the kind that tasted like honey and history. Jack kissed her fingertips. "You're my forever," he murmured, "you and the little girl you gave me, and every moment you breathe." Rosa stroked his beard, her eyes full of fire and affection. "Then let's keep living like it." And live they did. Seasons changed and their baby grew, crawling through rose gardens, chasing butterflies, and giggling at the way Jack sang silly songs. They took her on long beach walks, her little feet sinking into the sand as they walked hand in hand along the shore. Rosa wore sundresses, her curls loose and bouncing in the breeze. Jack couldn't help but snap photos each time. Not for the memories, but because even the present felt too precious to trust to time alone. Anniversaries became adventures. Jack took Rosa to places they had once only dreamed of. Private islands, ancient vineyards, mountaintop cottages. But it wasn't the luxury she treasured. It was the way he looked at her across every dinner table, like she was still the only star in his sky. It was the way he'd wake her in the morning with whispered poetry and coffee brought to bed. It was the way he danced with her in candlelight, even when no music played. Back at home, Rosa continued her work with the Haven, now visited by dozens of women who left with new hope in their eyes. She hosted healing circles, wrote letters of encouragement, and curated journals filled with strength and softness. Every night when she came home, Jack waited by the door with open arms and a kiss that said, "You're home, my love. You're safe." Sometimes, after tucking their daughter into bed, Rosa would sit on the balcony, wrapped in a silk robe, gazing up at the stars. Jack would join her with a blanket and a bowl of fresh fruit, pulling her between his legs so she could rest against his chest. "You're the strongest queen I know," he'd whisper, pressing kisses behind her ear. "And I still can't believe I get to love you." Rosa would smile, her eyes closing. "I believe it because you made me believe in love again." They made love with a tenderness that didn't fade with time. If anything, their passion grew deeper, richer, more soulful. Jack adored every curve of Rosa's body, never letting her forget how much he desired her, even after childbirth, even in moments of doubt. "You're mine," he'd murmur, his hands exploring every inch of her, always. Years passed, but their hearts had never aged. Rosa, once lost and trembling on a park bench, now reigned over a life filled with grace and gold. Jack, once powerful but lonely, had learned that true strength came from loving without limits. And every night, before the lights went out and the stars rose again, Jack would take her hand, kiss her palm, and ask, "Will you marry me again?" And Rosa, with that same fire in her eyes, would whisper, "Yes, always." The morning sun bathed the garden in golden warmth, as if heaven itself had opened its arms and poured love across the earth. Birds chirped in the trees and the wind whispered sweet melodies through the blossoms. Rosa stood barefoot on the dewy grass, her silk robe swaying gently in the breeze. Their daughter danced around her, her tiny laughter bouncing off the garden walls like music. Jack watched from a distance, standing by a tall oak tree with his hands in his pockets, his eyes locked on the two loves of his life. He had spent every day since that first encounter thanking God for the day he saw her on that old city bench. But today, on their 5th anniversary, he wanted to do something unforgettable. Behind the greenhouse, hidden by thick roses and jasmine vines, Jack had recreated the bench from that life-changing day. The same deep brown wood, the same slightly curved back, even the same iron legs, gently carved with vines. He had gone back to that exact spot years ago, taken pictures, made notes. Now it sat in the center of their garden, surrounded by white flowers and sunlight, a sacred space, a reminder of where everything had begun. That afternoon, he called Rosa outside. She stepped out, her eyes dancing with surprise as she saw the bench, her breath caught in her throat. She walked slowly toward it, their daughter toddling beside her, clutching her hand. The memories flooded back, her trembling heart, the weight of fear, the moment Jack had looked at her. Not as someone broken, but as someone waiting to be loved. Rosa sat down slowly, tears already filling her eyes. Jack knelt in front of her, one hand resting gently on their daughter's back, the other holding Rosa's hand. His voice was soft, thick with emotion. "I didn't just fall in love with you that day," he said. "I saw you, every part of you, and I still see you. Your strength, your kindness, your heart. Will you marry me again, Rosa? Not just for a lifetime, but forever?" Tears slipped down Rosa's cheeks as she looked into his eyes, still so full of fire, still her safe place. She reached out, pulling him into her arms, their daughter giggling between them. "You didn't save me, Jack," she whispered into his ear. "You saw me, and because you did, I learned how to love myself." They didn't need a crowd, music, or flowers. That garden, that bench, That moment, that was their altar. And as they kissed, holding each other and their child in one embrace, heaven felt near. That night, their home glowed with candles. Soft music floated through the air, and rose petals were scattered across their bedroom floor. Rosa stood by the window in a silk nightgown that shimmered like moonlight. Jack approached her slowly, his heart pounding as it had on their first night. "You're even more beautiful now," he whispered, "because you've lived, loved, and given me everything I never knew I needed." Rosa turned to face him, her eyes soft and glistening. She cupped his cheek, whispering, "And you gave me the life I never thought I'd be worthy of." They made love that night like it was their very first time. Tender, slow, deep. Every kiss spoke of their journey. Every touch celebrated their survival. The passion wasn't rushed, but steady, like a promise renewed with every breath. Jack traced every curve of her body, his lips worshiping the stretch marks she had once feared. The soft hills of her hips, the strength in her arms. "This is mine," he whispered against her skin. "This is my queen." Rosa's hand slid across his back, holding him close as their bodies moved together in perfect rhythm. Their sighs filled the room, holy and whole, and when they collapsed into each other's arms, sweat and silk clinging to their skin, Rosa smiled up at the ceiling where the stars winked through the window. "This isn't a fairy tale," she whispered. "This is my life, and it's even better than any story." Time passed. Their daughter grew into a fierce, bright little girl who adored books, flowers, and her father's old guitar. Jack and Rosa built more than a family. They built a world of love. They traveled, danced under moonlight in Italy, kissed on cliffs in Greece, and laughed in the rain on cobbled streets in Paris. But no matter where they went, their favorite place remained that garden bench. Every anniversary, Jack brought her there. Every year, he asked the same question: "Will you marry me again?" And Rosa always answered with a kiss and a soft, "Yes, Jack. 1,000 lifetimes. Yes." Their mansion echoed with joy. Not just luxury. The walls held paintings of their daughter's messy art, pictures of kisses stolen in sunlight, and memories carved into every corner. Rosa's women's center flourished, touching thousands of lives. Jack's business thrived, but his greatest success was always coming home to his girls. Knowing he had built more than wealth, he had built eternity. On quiet Sunday mornings, Jack read devotionals aloud while Rosa sipped tea beside him. They taught their daughter to pray, to believe in second chances, and to never stop loving. And every night before bed, they whispered thanks, not just to each other, but to Jesus, whose mercy had healed them and brought them to this life, whose name they never forgot to honor. One evening, as they watched the sun set from their garden bench, Rosa rested her head on Jack's shoulder. "You know," she said softly, "I think heaven might look a little like this." Jack smiled, kissing her hair. "If it does, it's only because you're here with me." They sat there in silence, love filling the spaces words couldn't reach. Their daughter ran through the garden, chasing butterflies, her laughter echoing into eternity. And now to you, listening to this story from beginning to end, I thank you, from the depths of my heart. Thank you for walking beside Rosa and Jack. Thank you for believing in love that heals, forgives, and never gives up. Thank you for letting this story become part of your day, your heart, your hope. To each of you, you are my loyal family. You stayed through every chapter.